Good evening. Linda, could you please give the invocation?
Okay, let's bow our heads. Holy and righteous Father, full of mercy and truth and grace, we invite you to have your way here this night. We ask that we would not love the praise of men more than the praise of God. Let all that is done here tonight be in agreement with your desires. We welcome your light to shine on every subject matter and every thought, every heart, and every mind, that none will walk or dwell in darkness. Let all walk and respond in love one for another, and make decisions according to your commandments, so that all obstacles may be overcome. Father, we also pray for the peace of Jerusalem, for all the innocents in all war areas to be protected and all wounded to receive the care they need. Last but not least, we pray Psalm 91 over us, our city, our county, our state, and our nation. When you sit enthroned under the shadow of Shaddai, you are hidden in the strength of God Most High. He's the hope that holds me and the stronghold to shelter me, the only God for me and my great confidence. He will rescue you from every hidden trap of the enemy and will protect you from false accusation and any deadly curse. His massive arms are wrapped around you, protecting you. You can run under his covering of majesty and hide. His arms of faithfulness are a shield, keeping you from harm. You will never worry about an attack of demonic forces at night, nor have to fear a spirit of darkness coming against you. Don't fear a thing. Whether by night or by day, demonic danger will not trouble you, nor will the powers of evil launched against you. Even at a time of disaster, with thousands and thousands being killed, you will remain unscathed and unharmed. You will be a spectator as the wicked perish in judgment, for they will be paid back for what they have done. When we live our lives within the shadow of the Most High, our secret hiding place, we will always be shielded from harm. How then could evil prevail against us or disease infect us? God sends his angels with special orders to protect you wherever you go, defending you from all harm. If you walk in a trap, they'll be there for you and keep you from stumbling. You'll even walk unharmed among the fiercest powers of darkness, trampling every one of them beneath your feet. For here is what the Lord has spoken to me. Because you have delighted in me as my great lover, I will greatly protect you. I will set you in a high place, safe and secure before my face. I will answer your cry for help every time you pray. You will find and feel my presence, even in your time of pressure and trouble. I will be your glorious hero and give you a feast. You will be satisfied with a full life and with all that I do for you will enjoy the fullness of my salvation. Amen.
Thank you, Linda. So now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller. Alderpersons Clem.
Here.
Monroe.
Here.
Simmons.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Stacy is absent. Shadle.
Here.
Sanders.
Here.
And Sellers.
Here.
Thank you. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. So could you please stand and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance? We will be led by Scout Member Hazel Musser.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice done. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. Item number 1 is approval of the agenda. Is there such a motion?
So move.
Second.
A motion made by Alderman Sellers, seconded by Alderman Shadle. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting, October 16th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Public comments. There is none signed up for agenda items. So we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is considered to be routine in nature and acted as one motion unless there's a member of the council who would like to have something removed for further discussion. Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of approving to receive and place on file the board and commission minutes from the Foreign Fire Insurance Board from August 10th, Zoning Board of Appeals, September 7th, Library Board of Trustees, September 13th, Planning Commission, September 14th, Board of Fire and Police Commissioners, September 26th, all 2023. Also is the Festival District dates for 2024, the Fire Department Monthly Report for September 2023, the Greater Freeport Partnerships Monthly Report dated October 25th, 2023, and the Building permit reports for October 2023. Also is approval of finance bills payable in the total of $3,264,350.80 and payroll for pay period ending October 21st, 2023 in the total of $582,443.33. Also is the finance and the cash and investment reports dated September 2023. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons. Parker.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Is this open for discussion?
We did that already.
No, it's your vote on the consent agenda.
Yeah, there's an item in here that I don't see clearly, so do I?
That already went past. Yep, so you have to,
Okay. I missed it, it's gonna bounce back again, so I'll catch up with it.
Would you
so
rather-
What is your vote, please?
Oh. I sustain.
Sellers.
Aye.
The motion passes 6-1. No, 6-0 with 1 abstention.
and next is item number 5, which is the recognition of service awards, Fire Department.
Yes, we have Ryan Thomas, who is celebrating his 5th year on the department. However, he could not attend with us tonight.
Thank you. And Manager Boyer?
Ladies and gentlemen, today we honor Ashley Huffines for her 5-year journey as our esteemed library executive director. Ashley's exceptional ability to forge a cohesive and emotionally supported team has been a cornerstone of her tenure. She has earned the library board's respect and trust, and you are a valued counselor. Her vision has elevated the library to a cultural cornerstone within our community, enhanced through her guidance to the Future Arts and Culture Commission. Her dedication to excellence and meticulous management of our resources exemplify her unparalleled professionalism, while her whimsical Halloween banana costume brings a unique joy to the work environment. As we recognize Ashley with this award today, we are not only celebrating her past accomplishments, but also look forward to her continued growth under her guidance. Please join me in a heartfelt congratulations for Ashley. Thank you for your steadfast dedication, inspiring leadership. Thank you, Ashley, for everything.
Thank you, Ashley.
And I'd like to recognize Keith Vital for 5 years with the street department. He is unable to attend tonight, but he currently serves as our forestry foreman, does a phenomenal job, and we just thank him and all the folks down at the street department for the work that they do every day to improve the city. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you. Item number 6 is reappointments. Madam Clerk, would you please read this?
Reappointment of Paulette Williams Thomas to the Housing Authority effective through October 31st, 2028.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Clem. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Clem.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was there discussion?
Yes, she's already been on there, hasn't she? I mean,
Her seat expires, so she asked if she could be reappointed.
oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons. Parker.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
And Sellers.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
And item number 7 is second reading of ordinance 2023-49. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending Chapter 806 alcoholic liquor sales to create a new liquor license classification for golf courses.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The changes proposed here are intended to update and consolidate the requirements for the outdoor sales and service of alcoholic liquor on the golf courses. We went over this in somewhat detail at last meeting, and staff recommends City Council adopt the attached ordinance as presented.
Discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
And Sellers.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 8 is the second reading of ordinance 2023-50. Could you please read this?
Ordinance approving a special use permit application at 1024 Riverside Drive submitted by Cave Bar and Grill to examine the special use of a B3 commercial and wholesale business zone to allow restaurants, taverns, packaged liquor stores, and any other establishment the sale of alcoholic beverages for consumption on or off the premises per section 1252.01B11.
Thank you. Lorena?
This special use application was submitted to staff. It is a B3 commercial wholesale business zoning district, which requires a special use application for the sale of alcohol. The application was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals on October 5th, 2023, with 7 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. It was then approved by the Planning Commission on October 12th, 2023, with 5 yeas, 0 nays, and 0 abstentions. Staff has no recommendations.
Thank you. Further discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons. Parker.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Suspension. Extension.
Abstain.
Abstain.
And Sellers.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 6-0 with 1 abstention.
And item number 9 is the first reading of ordinance 2023-52. Could you please read this?
Ordinance amending sections 1042.23 and 1042.27 of the codified ordinances pertaining to requirements of backflow prevention devices and enforcement.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The City of Freeport is required by the Environmental Protection Agency to have cross-connection program that contains a backflow prevention program. The backflow prevention program ensures that the city water is not contaminated due to water moving from a commercial location back into the water system. This ensures the safety and security of our water supply for all consumers. The city staff is requesting the ordinance be updated to increase the understanding and compliance, as well as give the opportunity for fees to be assessed prior to water shutoffs being conducted. There will be a minimal impact to water users and no impact to the city finances, and those impacted will be customers that put the water supply at risk of contamination by failing to follow the ordinance. Staff recommends moving this forward for second reading, ordinance 1042.23 and 1042.27.
Thank you. Is there a motion to move ordinance 2023-52 on to the next regular scheduled meeting?
Yes, I'd like
Yeah.
to move it forward for discussion.
Okay, so I have a
Second.
motion. I have a motion made by Alderman Parker. Alderman Clem, are you the second then?
That's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay, we're fine. No big
I
deal.
didn't hear Parker.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Discussion. Alderman Clem?
Sure. Explain to me a little more where you're going with this. I understand the backflow prevention, understand all that. It looks like you've added additional names to it, such as other people that were normally on it. Okay, was there a problem with it before, or was this just an update? Just curiosity, because it's, you and I both know it's mainly boilers, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Sure. Just to answer that, this update is to bring things in line with current regulations by the EPA. This is pretty standard fare moving forward, and some of our water utility ordinances are a little bit out of date, and so this is an ongoing process to make sure things are in keeping up with the current code.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Mayor May.
Alderman Sellers?
Yes, I'd just like to, with me again, I just want to know, what is this costing? What is,
Alderman, it shouldn't result in any cost. However, there are certain businesses that may need some updates to their backflow preventers to protect the overall water system, and these are kind of best practices that have been developed over time that are currently implemented in many communities, and this is just a recommended update from the Illinois EPA.
okay, thank you.
Anything else? Then we will move on to item number 10, which is the adoption of Resolution 2023-78. Could you please read this for the record?
Resolution ratifying emergency soil analysis grid mapping related to Phase 1 wastewater treatment plant improvements performed by Fair Graham.
Thank you. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. The City of Freeport's Phase 1 wastewater treatment plant improvements project is underway. The prime contractor, IHC, recently informed the City of Freeport that testing services, TSC, was hired by IHC to perform analysis of the existing on-site soil to confirm its constituents. This was completed as required by the IEPA and project specifications, which require the contractor submit an assigned uncontaminated soil certification form indicating that no contamination was found. It was determined by TSC that portion of the existing soil near the proposed headworks and chemically enhanced primary treatment structures did not meet the requirements of the uncontaminated soils. Based on this classification, the contaminated soils must be kept on site or hauled to a specific location, accepting special or hazardous waste, which is quite costly. There is currently no room on site for the excessive excavated soil. TSC took 2 soil samples at opposite ends of the facility. Only one of the samples did not meet the requirements of the uncontaminated soils requirement. The sample did not meet this represents the majority of the proposed excavation area, and due to the cost implications of hauling this contaminated soil off-site, it is recommended by Fair Graham's professional geologist that the additional soil sampling be conducted in an effort to narrow in on the contaminated area and ultimately reduce the amount of soils needed to be hauled off-site to the special waste facility. To minimize the quantity of soil needed to be treated as special waste, Fair Graham will provide grid mapping soil analysis that would help narrow the scope of the contaminated area that was indicated by one TSC soil boring. Without narrowing in on the contaminated area, the majority of the proposed project site would be considered contaminated based on this one boring, which would have significant cost implications due to it then needing to be classified as hazardous and hauled to a location that accepts special waste. Contaminated soils have significant change order concerns and are not in the engineer or the contractor's scope of work. Due to the associated lab times with soil testing, this work needs to happen as soon as possible as not to delay the project. Financials, the additional basic set of soil testing, grid services, and associated lab fees can be provided for $16,000. More may be needed. Special waste cost disposal and hauling will be negotiated directly with the contractor once more lab information is known out of the project contingency fund. Please note that this issue could severely affect the contingency fund in place for the project, as contaminated soil was not expected at this location due to the age of the existing plant. Staff's recommendation is City Council to move forward with the gridded soil testing in an effort to narrow down and minimize the contaminated soil quality that needs to be treated as special waste.
Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-78?
So moved for discussion.
Is there a second?
Second. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion. Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, I just want to invade on the book that you was reading in terms of the survey analysis on the study, and from what I heard is that Fair Graham is doing the study, right, or have already done this study of the contaminated soil around the waste treatment plant, and that it has been fully cleared by the IEPA, and that study has not produced any evidence here at the chamber. And so I would like to recommend that our council members take a hard look at this study, because this thing has been in play for decades. And whether or not a study has been studied, we like to know why this book is so lengthily and so long. I call it a book because that's exactly what you were reading to us, as if though we are to understand every word that you mentioned or talked about or defined. And so we need more clarity with that. We're just not going to throw this thing out there and just to say we're going to vote for it and say yes to it, because we have to be able to understand every iota of that, whatever that was that you was reading, because there's a whole lot of variations going on there, and it's too broad for us to comprehend right at this moment. But I know that there's an opportunity for us to get in there in the mix with you. This is not an isolated or inclusion kind of thing that you're doing, that only certain people are privy to know exactly what is the process here and what's taking place, and why has it taken so long for this study to materialize. And so that's one of my concerns, but I have others, but I just like to throw that out there on the table so we can all get a bite of it.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Alderman Sanders. Just to kind of recap, during early summer, the project to move forward with the headworks was approved by council to move forward and begin construction. It took them a little while to get mobilized. They've been mobilized. The contractor, IHC, who's in charge of building the new headworks and the chemically enhanced primary treatment facility, is in the process of excavating. As part of excavating for those new facilities, they have to do soil sampling. They took 2 samples under their contract. One came back contaminated, and we are requesting essentially a project with Fairgraham to go and narrow down the area of contamination so that we don't have to remove all soil from the whole area based on one sample. We want to look through the entire site and then plan on removing only the soil that needs to be removed. So that's kind of the idea here. That's what I'm asking for, is allowing us to move forward with a change. They estimate the change would cost about $16,000 to do the soil bore samples on a grid layout on the site to find out the extent of the contamination, so that just those areas can be removed and we don't have to remove all the soil from the whole site.
Okay, are we in a testing phase at this current time?
Yes.
We are. And who is responsible for the soil sample testing?
Well, the contractor is responsible for a couple of sample borings. When they did their couple samples and one of them came out contaminated, then it then became necessary to understand the extent of the contamination. And so that's what we're here to discuss tonight and potentially move forward with, is an agreement with Fairgraham to go ahead and define the extent of the contamination so that we can limit the amount of soils that need to be removed and taken to a special facility to be received.
Okay, the door is still open for this. Okay.
Alderman Monroe.
Yes, City Manager, what are the contaminants? I haven't heard that.
Darren, do you want to go over some of the contaminants?
So there was various contaminant levels, but one thing that was predominantly high was lead, which was unusually high, cyanide, cadmium, which is all similar to battery waste. There was also glass, bricks. In our samples that we did, we had filled down to at least 12 feet before we hit cohesive soils in the area. And just to back up on something that Rob said, to be clear, so the EPA requires when you move this much soil on a property and you have to haul it off, that's when they require the sample soil testing. It's not something you would do prior to removing the soil, and it's kind of a luck of the draw. If you get a good sample, you can move. If you get a bad sample, you have to stop and do more testing. This is a very large cost item to the city based on the amount of cubic yards that we have to move at this site to build the headworks. You're looking at probably close to 45,000 cubic yards of material if we don't test further, that would have an implication of potentially could be up to $4 million worth of soil removals at this property. It's very significant. So we're trying to do more soil analysis to narrow down the scope of what needs to be removed. You have to remember at this site, we had Burgess Battery at one time upstream, and we had Modern Plating one time across the river from the plant. And so we have had major contaminant sources within the area of the plant. And so at this time, this is the state we are. We need to do more testing to try to get this number down. There's really, I don't know of another option other than just agreeing and hauling it out. Cubic yard waste, special waste, is generally speaking, could be up into the $120 a cubic yard. And it can only be accepted by certain landfills.
Right.
Alderman Simmons, did you have a question?
I did have a question. It's so if the original company that's doing it, the original contractor hired someone to do the testing, why are we hiring someone else versus just having them do more testing?
So your question is, why are we having another firm do the testing when we have the TSC already involved?
Right.
I believe it's because we are more familiar with the area, and that'll result in lower costs overall to the project.
That is one of the reasons that we tried to support it, because our cost as a regular city contractor was much cheaper than hiring a regular testing agent come out, because you'll have multiple markups from other companies in the way the chain of the change orders, because it would be out of scope. So we're actually trying to do it to reduce costs of what it would cost to get done.
I have a follow-up.
Sure.
So do you have a quote from the TSC company as to how much they would charge to do this same thing?
I don't believe so. Did TSC provide you? Okay. So in this particular case, I think it's a prudent thing to use firm that understands and is familiar with the area. However, if that's what needs to be done, then we'll do what's required.
I believe Alderman Sellers was next.
Just wanted to know, before we even started the program, I know years ago we had the Brownsfield and all those different things over there, cleaning up those different sites over there. And then with us going through this, EPA, which said we were contaminated, and this lawsuit, whatever the thing is, we never thought about that kind of stuff way back then, of what the land would be like if we had contaminations and all that. We never thought that there would be contamination.
We did original core samples on the site down to 50, 60 feet, especially where the headworks is being built. We had cohesive soils at 12 feet, which the top above that is fill, but it was silt and sand, what you would find in a river-bearing area. So no, and again, you don't want to test too early because they won't accept the test if you don't do it before you remove the soils. You get what I'm saying? You can't take the test 3 years in advance of removing the soil. They won't accept that test. It has to be something current when the time that you do this.
Alderman Sanders?
Yes. The analysis that you are giving right now are decade old. These are very old analysis that you're producing, and we have not done a overall analysis of all of these areas of contaminants and the removal of contaminants. What has changed since then from past administrations and things of that nature? What has changed that is prompting us to look into soil samples when we don't know the magnitude that this thing had been going on for years?
So the prompting of it is the construction at the wastewater treatment plant, the new headworks, the new
Yeah.
sept, and the new administration. That's what triggers doing the sample.
Well, here's another note. Before this whole project begins, we have not done a study of how much, what the EPA is finding in the water for contaminants. We need a back history of what the EPA is doing currently to determine how much and what the back history was of the contaminants of the soil that leaked into the water around these facilities and the waste treatment plant and all other facilities that handles contaminants. What have our study has done? Because the reason why I'm saying this is because it's about the public knowing that these contaminants are surrounding the city of Freeport. They're all over. And I like to see the studies of it might be a book this big, but it shouldn't have been that large. But the thing is, these have been ongoing studies from Fair and Graham. Yeah, they have done some studies. I don't know about the treatment
The
part.
Army Corps does the study
Was
of the
Army Corps?
Pecatonica River.
Yeah, just like
New water sampling.
yeah, just like the Burgess Battery along the river of Tuddy Baker. There was much contaminants around there, but there was no removal of the contaminants.
Manager Boyer, would you like to shed some light on that?
Not at the level that we're talking about,
mean-
because we know that,
We have to specifically deal with the construction site, that everything outside of the construction site at this point is not the concern of the wastewater treatment plant construction. We have to deal with the soil that's on this property in order to move forward with the construction
yeah,
of this
with
property.
the EPA involvement is what prompt the city that we need to get in there and remove that stuff.
No, when you move this kind of dirt, it's a state law that you have to do testing when you can't place the soil back on your own site, which we have no room at the wastewater treatment plant to contain this much dirt because we're doing so much construction. So if we had an open space, we could stockpile it on site and we could keep it and remain it, and then we wouldn't have to deal with it. But we have no room left at the wastewater treatment plant. That's what prompts you to have to test it when you're going to haul it to another location. It's
Okay.
got to be considered, I think it's called CCDC. It has to be clean fill if it goes off of the property, so
Right.
it can be put in another location safely. When it's not, it's called special waste, and then you have to pay to landfill that special waste. We can't haul it to our own landfills because they're not open, so we would have to go to a special waste site that is able to accept this kind of product.
Manager Boyer?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point to Alderman Sanders. You understand your perspective on it, and I think I understand where you're coming from. And I also want to reiterate to you that we are trying to deal with essentially what forefathers have kind of left us here.
Yeah.
We're trying to fix this particular situation, and we're handling it in a responsible way with the Illinois EPA. And so unfortunately, we just need to understand, we need better resolution on the extent of that contamination so that we can then plan to haul it away and deal with it responsibly. If we don't have better resolution and know where all the various depths and types of contamination are, then we're kind of shooting blind, and we have to basically give it the gold plate. We got to haul it all to the special waste facility. So we don't want to have to do that if we don't need to. And the reason, the need behind this particular request is to to specify what is where, and so we only have to remove what we really need to, and then the rest can stay. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
has that study been done?
This is the study.
That's what.
So we're asking for the study right now.
Okay, all right.
Alderman
it-
Clem? Oh,
Yeah. If I could, when was the sample taken by the contractor?
Approximately 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so we're dealing with something that's brand new here. Okay, and it's how to solve the issue. Okay, one of the parts of what's being proposed by Fair Graham is taking numerous samples, okay, and also laying it out, drawing topography or whatever map that we're going to have to do to isolate these areas and how far they will be. In that amount of money that you're mentioning, give me a ballpark. I don't know if it's 5, I don't know if it's 50 samples that you'll take, or give.
About a dozen, honestly. But most of the fees from that fee is lab cost to run the soil analysis. That's not, they're just pass-through costs for us. We bring in a drill rig, and we drill those samples down to 12 feet. And then you have to stop because there's a limit how deep you can go before you could have to remove that layer to do another test. That's why we set it up in stages, trying to be prudent with the money. The Headworks has a very large excavation that goes down to about 60 feet below elevation, and the Sept, I believe it's about 25 feet. So those are our two deepest excavations. And then you have the administrative building, which has an excavation probably about 8 feet to set the footing and the walls. So the real key is we're trying to minimize the cost by gridding it out, and that's why there might be additional testing. But when you have an item that's this large, I don't know how there's another way to reduce the liability of what we have. We can just say, nope, we're going to quantify it all as special waste and haul it out and pay the bill and move on. By law, we have to deal with it because it's city property and it's on city property, and we have to, it's our responsibility now that it's been discovered. And there wasn't another choice because there's nowhere, I don't know how many people are familiar with the wastewater treatment plant, but all the available land was taken up by solar panels. So there's nowhere for us to take and put this as fill to keep it on the property. So we have no remaining site. Every square ounce of this property is being utilized.
So
Follow up.
as a follow-up, you're basically talking, as you do this, you're talking about the first 12 feet first. Then,
Correct.
Then the areas where you're going to have to go deeper, you're going to have to sample that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You have to try to isolate it to a cohesive soil that we have to assume didn't get contaminated.
Okay.
But cohesive soil would be like a hard clay that wouldn't absorb contaminants.
Exactly.
Alderman Sanders?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Let me revisit over by the Stevenson Street Bridge at Tutty Baker again. Those contaminants had been in there for decades, as long as the building had been erected and removed.
The old Burgess Battery?
Yes.
Yeah, they're still contaminated.
I'm glad you said that.
Yep.
Yeah, because the thing about it is, we as a general public had not known what the effects of those contaminants are. Have you had any update studies or test analysis of that?
So Alderman Sanders, that's totally off subject. This is about a soil analysis grid mapping for this particular spot. It doesn't have anything to do with any other testing, so it's kind of correct?
Well, the reason why I brought that out is because there had not been a study, and we do
Right,
not.
which they're explaining that you can't do it prior to.
Well, I want to know, what I want to know is, what kind of contaminants are they? Can they generally affect the public, is what I want to know. If it is, then these things have to have a level of priorities. If it's affecting the public, then it should be still the same as of today.
All I can comment on, Alderman Sanders, is that the Tutty Baker Park, Tutty's Park, and the old Album Street modern plating have no further remediation orders from the EPA, so they have quantified those as clean. And the city has.
They can't do that.
There's no further remediation to both sites, but they just can't be dug on.
Right. Okay.
Alderman Monroe?
No, I think that brings up a good point. As we dig down, the 12 feet, that contaminant could actually be dislodged by the river if you had flooding, you had other things like that going on. So remediating this is very important to the city of Freeport and everyone downriver from that. So, I'm a little shocked that, that we haven't dealt with this sooner in time as well. Because when you talk about, lead, cyanide, cadmium, those are serious issues, especially if it gets into your water supply, things like that. So, we have a first and a second, right?
The one thing we can tell you that we found odd at the location is the top 12 feet had bricks, glass, a lot of foreign material that looked like it had been hauled in there at some point. Now, nobody alive remembers any fill going into that area, and it is the floodplain, so it would have been illegal to fill the floodplain. So that's why it's a little foreign that you would have found that. And we even did some cores underneath the parking lot area that shouldn't have anything, and those were the same. So it appears that at one point when that was built, there was a lot of fill that was brought into that site from who knows where. But again, I don't believe anybody's alive to be able to tell us what that was.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you. Just to fill in on that. So the last major upgrade to the headworks was 1968, and before that it was 1930. So it's been there for 60, 70, 80 years. So.
Yeah, it's just like,
I would just like to know, do we know what the percentages of the lead and cyanide and the other?
There's
you know
a
it-
lab
was it-
sample on it. The one that was concerning to us, honestly, the most was the lead numbers were high, but you can have erroneous lead numbers within soil based on location. It just doesn't match our geographical location. That's why between that, the glass, the rock, and some of the foreign wood and things that were brought up, we believe it was hauled in there at one time. That's what, experts say. We have expert geologists on staff and brownfields people that deal with this all the time. And honestly, I'm fine with whatever you guys want to do. We did this as a cost-saving measure to the city to try to control the situation and reduce the cost to have it done and get it done quickly so the project can keep moving. The longer we take to do this, there's delay costs from the contractor because they can't move forward. And until a decision and a final analysis of how much material we're going to have to haul off is done, they are on hold. They can't do anything on site without it. And so this is a real key piece to moving forward. And again, there is no way for us to have done this testing prior to the dirt removal. It's required to be done within so many days of the excavations and removal.
There's no further discussion.
Call the question.
Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Shadle,
Aye.
Sanders,
aye.
and Sellers.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 11 is the adoption of Resolution 2023-79. Could you please read this?
Resolution approving an unclaimed and uncashed check policy.
Thank you, Director Richter.
Thank you, Your Honor. At the conclusion of the City of Freeport's financial audit for 2022, our auditors, Lauterbach and Amen, recommended the implementation of an outstanding check write-off policy. The majority of the outstanding checks on the City of Freeport's bank reconciliations are deposit refunds to water and sewer customers. Refunds are mailed to the customer's forwarding address if we were notified, or if they or they're mailed to the customer's last known mailing address. If a deposit refund remains uncashed after several attempts to contact the customer, the funds are forwarded to the State of Illinois Unclaimed Property Division per the state's rules. The attached policy will address our auditor's recommendation and provides guidance to the Finance Department on when checks must be reviewed and the actions to be taken when a check remains uncashed. And just quickly, the policy, it tells us, let me go back a step. The city has 2 bank accounts that we write checks on, mostly, that are the majority of our transactions. And like I said, the majority of the unclaimed and uncashed checks that sit on our bank statement are people that had water and sewer accounts, and they didn't let us know a forwarding address is usually what it is. We mail out the check, and either it comes back to us, or we don't even get it back, and it remains uncashed, and it just sits on our bank statement for a while. So when the auditors came in, they saw a few of those on our bank statement, and they said, you really need to clean these up. And so we had been following, and we always have since I've been here, followed the rules for the state unclaimed property rules. And after 3 years, if we still retain the money after 3 years is when you forward it to the state. And that's what this policy kind of addresses. It addresses rules for us to either after 2 months try and call, reach out and find out, if we can get in touch with the person, find out where they moved, or after 3 months send a letter. And then if we still can't find them, still have this money, it remains on the city's books. We send out another letter, even though it's still probably going to the last known mailing address. Per the state's guidelines, you have to do one last due diligence letter before you remit it to the state, because I'm sure the state doesn't want these funds either. They want us to get it to the person whose money it is. So we try one last ditch effort after 3 years prior to remitting it to the state. So that's really what the policy is outlining. It's putting more in writing these actions by the finance department, so they'll be more quickly removed from our bank reconciliation, and the funds transferred to a liability account on the city's books that specifically has these unclaimed funds.
Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-79?
So moved.
Motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Parker. Is there discussion?
I just have
Alderman
one-
Sellers?
Yes. I'd just like to ask the question, so we do have to wait by state law 3 years before we turn, okay.
Yes, we do.
Do you know what the state does with that money?
There is a website that people can go on to and look for unclaimed funds and just type your name in and it'll come up with anything. Actually, the city of Freeport, we claimed some money last year of refunds that were due to us that the city didn't get from like insurance companies and things like that.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
And Sellers.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
And item number 12, could you please read the approval of the RFP?
There was a opening date of the RFP on October 30th, 2023, approving emergency replacement generator for fire station.
Thank you. Chief Miller.
Thank you, Your Honor. In 2012, when the fire department moved into the central fire station and they vacated the old Station 3 on West Avenue, as a cost savings measure, they chose to bring with them the old undersized generator that served to the old fire station. So relocating it up to Central Fire Station, it was installed, and sometime thereafter, we determined that that generator is undersized. It won't power or serve critical equipment in the event of an emergency situation or power outage. Specifically, our compressor for our self-contained breathing apparatus. So if we were to have a fire during a major outage, we'd go through consume all the air in our bottles, we wouldn't be able to fill them back up. So we could eventually run out of air, essentially. So also, the existing generator will power our garage doors and a few lights, and that's all. We don't have adequate emergency circuits within the building. We want to consider our training room as an emergency operations center for the city, so all department heads and services could get together in the event of a citywide emergency. We wouldn't have the power to provide in that training room. All department heads plugging in laptops, communication services, and things of that nature. So we drew up some specifications, and we went out to bid, or an RFP, request for proposals, and we published that publicly and also mailed out invitations to bid to several contractors within Freeport and also in our general area. So as a result, 2 bids were received. One was from Lesher in Freeport. The second was from KW Electric, located in Stockton. Lesher came in as the lower responsible bidder, and as a point of rule, KW did not complete the bid spec correctly, so it was an incomplete proposal that they made to us. So even with that being said, we're requesting authorization from council to go ahead and replace our emergency generator with a more adequate model that'll provide enough energy, enough electricity to run our critical equipment in the event of a power failure.
Is there a motion to approve the bid as stated?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Sellers. Discussion on the bid? Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Shadle.
Aye.
Sanders.
Aye.
And Sellers.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next is reports from department heads. Finance?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Community development?
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Public works?
Was asked to give some updates on some projects within the community. Happy to say Ridge Street, Lincoln Street, Chicago Avenue South have all been completed, other than utility diamonds that are in the process of being done. We're also adding a few utility diamonds on North Float Street. Those will be done as well yet this year. Greenfield, Sullivan, Navajo, and Harrison all received binder in the last 2 working days, which is Saturday and today. They will be doing a mandatory longitudinal joint sealer tomorrow, and then it needs to sit for a day, so we'll probably be seeing surface on Thursday and Friday, and that project should be completed as well. All the ADA sidewalks have been completed, as well as the grass restoration. The grass restoration I doubt will hold, and will probably have to be redone in the spring due to the seasonality of where we're at. Adams Avenue. Adams Avenue has been closed down for quite a bit of time. It's down to gravel in the Iroquois to Kenwood section. We've had a lot of difficulties in this section, a lot of unexpected underground issues. Our biggest issue is about 4,000 linear feet of Nicor gas main that has to be replaced on the north side of the road. It was found to be in the subgrade of the road, which was, if you can imagine the aggregate sandwich, it was right at the top of it, so it was barely under the blacktop when it was being discovered. And so when we went to put the road depths in, it had to be removed and relocated under the sidewalk area outside of the roadway. It was just no feasible way to build the road with it. Everyone should know that's not an engineering mistake. That's as-built records that were done from the 40s that were not accurate in location. Gas main should be buried at least 2.5 feet deep. That main is an 8-inch main that supplies probably 40% of the natural gas to the city of Freeport, so it had to be dealt with. It's going to cause delays on the project for sure. I was out there with City Manager Boyer last Friday, and Nicor had about 25 people working on the replacements at that time. ComEd poles, we've had some difficulties relocating those. That seems to be underway though. We've also had some boring issues at Jackson. There's homemade arches that go under Adams at Jackson. Nobody ever had recorded depths on them. The bores for the water main actually have to go under those. One of them at one of the 2 borings that we did went really easy, and the second one we hit nothing but rock. And when you do boring systems, you have to either be all in rock or out of rock. You can't partially hit rock because the bore rig will bind on it, and it's like a drill bit that binds. So after 3 days of non-successful boring at Jackson, I did not feel like it was safe, so we had them pull the bore rig out and go 2 feet deeper, and then it was completed in 1 day. So just some unexpected underground issues that were built back, many years ago that we're dealing with. We've also committed to replacing $250,000 with a sidewalk on the project. With the changes that Nicor is doing, most of one side of the street of sidewalk would get removed, and they're going to pay for that side and reimburse the city for it. and it didn't leave a lot of sidewalk remaining, so the city committed to moving forward and taking care of the rest of the sidewalk within the right-of-way. So if you've been through there, you'll see that Helm's out there doing as much sidewalk and curb work as we could possibly get done yet this year, but we will not be paving it. Temporary pavement's gonna cost too much money for the winter, so we're gonna keep it closed to local traffic only. We're gonna try to plow it with a rubber blade, and we'll try to move on. And hopefully we'll have a much better spring. I would say that the section that they're working on right now, as well as the two borers, were probably the most difficult sections on the project to deal with so far. Some storm issues that we've had there that I want to highlight is on Iroquois. We found a storm sewer that ran 2 feet uphill that probably has never drained in its entire life. Oh, wow. We went ahead and improved that and removed it, but it took an entire block to fix it. The net cost of that is about $100,000 to fix, but it was fixed completely. We had to relocate some water main to make it drain, or to have it drain. The reason when it was built is the storm was laid on top of the water main, so it gave it a reverse pitch. And it smelled so nasty in there that I don't think the thing's ever drained. There might have been some water in there from 1800.
Oh, wow.
There's also another issue, a major issue down at the intersection of Kenwood. The arch that's there that goes under the road, when it was exposed, it completely fell apart. And the construction quality of that arch is just not good. Arches were handmade products, and so when it was exposed to air and rain and everything, it just fell apart. So we are going to remove the pipe from right-of-way to right-of-way and replace that and grout it back in with a round, actually an oval storm to get under the road so the roadway is secured. That's one of the areas that we had a very large dip in the road, and nobody could figure out, well, the arch was failing beneath the road. Another project's Bradmar in town. Fishers is going to town out there with water main work. They have 2 crews working out there. Our plan currently is to finish all the water main yet this year, and then we're gonna pack it up for the winter, and we'll be back to do the street and the curbs in the spring.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Alderman Sanders?
Yeah, by the way, you said, is it at the north end of Kenwood or the south end of Kenwood?
It'd be where Kenwood crosses Adams, right at that intersection.
Oh, at that intersection.
Yeah, there's like a 60-inch arch that runs underneath that area and through some backyards.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. Oh, Alderman Sellers?
Yes, I know you were talking about the different streets that were done. I just have a question I'd like to, why are the white X's on the manhole covers on float? What does that mean?
Those are the ones that we're going to, you're talking about North Float?
Yeah.
So those are the ones that we're gonna rip them out, diamond them, and bring the manholes up to grade so there's no longer that dip in the roadway that everybody's been complaining about for about a year.
Okay.
So that should get fixed yet this year. That's just indicating which ones they're supposed to do.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Also, was there a program for civil at the time to upgrade those manholes and bring them to level?
That's part of the project.
We only do that with road repairs, am I correct?
Correct. When we did float, the city at that point decided that they did not want to do the raising of the manholes. When we did float, that was something that is an extra cost to road programs, and we were trying to experiment with getting rid of that extra cost, but it created more damage and headache than it's worth. So Freeport is actually the community that developed that. We call it the manhole diamond or the water valve diamond, so the plows skip over it. That's something the city crews came up with years ago, and it seemed like a good choice to sustain the roads and not beat up the water valves and the manhole castings.
That also suggests or has been a practice when the roads were brought to a certain level, when the manholes did not meet that standard. That caused a lot of hazard down those roads, and for the city not to pick up on that, I thought that was being disingenuous to allow vehicles to cross over those manholes, and it damages their idle arms, their whole racket bearing, whatever they call that.
Mm-hmm.
So are we going to continue to do that throughout the city?
Yes, that's part of our standard street specs that we've been doing on every road project for the last 2 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Fire?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you, please.
Thank you. On October 28th, the Freeport Police Department partnered with FHN from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the Drug Take Back event. During this event, members of the public were encouraged to bring unused prescription medications to the PD for disposal. As a result of the Drug Take Back event, approximately 50 individuals disposed of almost 39 pounds of unused prescription medications. The PD will be utilizing Inmar's free disposal service, which is paid for by the prescription drug companies, to safely discard prescription medications.
Well, that's a lot. Do we normally have that much, Mr. Turner?
Usually, yeah, it's quite a bit.
Thank you. Library?
Thank you. Last Friday, we launched our plant propagation library. This is just like a little free library where you bring a plant propagation to leave at the library and then take one for yourself. So it's all set up and ready to go on the second floor. So come on down and exchange your plants.
Have fun. Thank you. IT? And City Manager?
Thank you, Your Honor. No report tonight.
I just would like to, on behalf of the cities, express our condolences to Alderman Stacy with the passing of her husband this last week. And just to remind those, City Hall is closed on Friday in observation of Veterans Day. So thank you to all of our veterans that not only serve on the council, but in our community. So thank you. And then also on Friday is a blood drive at the Farm Bureau, which is at the intersection near of Spring and Galena on Friday, and walk-ins are welcome. So if you would like to donate blood, they would be very grateful for that. So council announcements, Alderman Clem.
Yes, if I could, I got a few. I wanted to thank Police Chief, a couple great arrests in the last week. Thank you guys for all your hard work. It's greatly appreciated. I want to make sure we thank the road crews for the excellent job they've done with our new equipment on the new streets. Really, Rob and Darren, really a great job. It's good to see you, and considerably less money. I'd like to thank the Scouts for being here tonight. Good job on the Pledge of Allegiance. I only got one other thing, if I could ask a question regarding community development. Since we had a business that made Facebook all last week and the front page of the paper on Sunday about how they were mistreated by the city and almost not allowed to move into the business, I'd just like to hear more about it if we could. It's on 20 South Chicago, the tarot reading, etc.
I'm sorry, I wasn't informed of that incident. I can look into it and get back to you.
Any other comments?
Alderman Clem, I just wanted to let you know that the process was followed. I'm sorry that it did not work out and as efficiently as was hoped, but I can assure you that the process was followed and our folks treated them with respect.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Monroe?
I would also like to second the mayor's comment about Cecilia Stacy's husband. Thoughts and prayers with her family. And hopefully she can find peace. I know he's been sick for a while, so a lot of thoughts and prayers going out to him. As far as the city crew work, I know leaf cleanup has begun, so make sure you get your leaves out to the side of the road as soon as possible. The crews have got all of their vehicles up and running. They're doing a great job this year with repairs and the new equipment that they've got as well. And I agree. The shout out to them, shout out to the police department, the fire department. They've all been working very hard. The library, a lot of things going on in the city, and we don't always talk about the positivity that's happening. And I think we've got to continue to look at the good and quit staring back at the past and the bad, because we can only control what we control today. So that's fixing it and working together and getting things in this city back to a functioning state. So, that's all I have here, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Simmons?
No, I don't have anything.
Thank you. Alderman Parker?
Just one thing. A couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to walk along Chicago Street while they were laying blacktop there. Our crews did a fantastic job. I was really amazed how quickly they laid it down and how great it looked when it was done. So just wanted to tell them thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Shadle?
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Alderman Sellers? I'm sorry, Sanders.
Yeah, I have one thing for sure. Winter is coming. Potholes are expanding. And we still haven't prioritized the critical ones. And I think we should meet those areas that has not been put on the program, but should be looked at and surveyed to see what the status of most damaging potholes can be to citizens of Freeport. We have not acknowledged that. We have not done much about that, and we need to step up and be pronto about everything when it comes to potholes in streets, because these potholes are going to be damaging to people's vehicles, going to cause accidents, going to cause a lot of things. And the snow plows that are going to be operating on these streets are not going to be merciful on these potholes. And we cannot, we need to be able to stay focused in getting some of these potholes filled. We need to prioritize and keep working at it, even during the winter time, that we must make that a priority this year and any other year that we're having these conditions that are taking place. That's all I have to say.
Darren, did you want to address potholes?
So on that note, if you have potholes in your neighborhood or your Alder area, please call them, call Public Works with those locations. They're making a list of some of the troubled ones. Our hot box recyclers in now. Their priority will be moving to leaf season, but as days present themselves, we'll be using the hot box to try to fill what we can on streets. Be respectful when you call in. It's really hard to take some of those calls, but we'll get to them as quick as we can.
All right.
Alderman Sellers?
Yes, I just want to comment on the potholes. I do have to say that if you do call, they do get on. It might not be that week, but they do get it, because I have been calling in certain streets and areas that I've been going down or whatever, and I see it, I will call. And like you said, give them some time, but they have filled all the holes that I called about. But then I also want to ask about, I know Manager Boyer was talking with Ashley, thank you, I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names. But anyway, and you talked about the Art Culture Commission or whatever. I think that is really great, and if any possible way, I would like to be a part of that, because I would love working with you.
Yeah, when we get to that point, that'll be,
Okay.
we're not there yet, but thank you. So that concludes Alderman. So we'll move on to public comments. We have one that the clerk is to read in.
This was an email received from Eric Quick. Good evening, City Council members. You have heard my public comment regarding James Monroe's defamatory accusation against me. You have also heard his apology, which interestingly enough didn't actually include me specifically or my family. An apology to people in general who might have been offended is not an apology to me. He attempted to justify his behavior behind claims of his family being attacked. I assure you that they were never under any threat of attack by me or anyone I associate with. A sitting Freeport alderman accused me, a citizen, of being a pedophile. This is not something that can just be swept under the rug. I was on the fence about letting it go, even in light of other things he's said to defame others. But after hearing his off-the-cuff, half-hearted apology at the City Council meeting on October 16, 2023, I'm considering further options. As far as I'm concerned, he is not worthy of holding a seat on the Freeport City Council. He has disgraced the city, the council, and the very idea of what it means to be a representative of the people. I implore you you to declare no confidence in James Monroe's ability to serve out his term and initiate the process of removing him from the Freeport City Council as alderman of the Second Ward. This is no small task and may even be unprecedented in the city's history, but it must be done to preserve the respect and trust of the citizens and their elected officials and integrity for the oath of office they swore to uphold. Please search within yourselves and find the courage to bring honor back to the Freeport City Council by expelling James Monroe. Eric Quick.
And we have, the next one signed up is Diane Yocum.
Some of this relates to what some of you shared in terms of your concerns for Cecilia, but I just want to throw it out to the larger public who may not always be aware of what's happened. So many of you may or may not know that since she took office, Alderwoman Cecilia Stacy has had an intense and stressful balancing act of working at her job, fulfilling the duties of her elected office and caring for a very severely ill husband who had been fighting cancer. Sadly, her husband Michael died a week ago, and presently she finds herself having to attend a funeral planning and arrangements this week for services on Saturday. Anyone who has ever lost a spouse or close family member knows how intense that grief experience can be. It often feels like an emotional roller coaster of ups and downs that can come and go in waves. And needless to say, it has not been an easy journey for Alderwoman Stacy as she has to walk these last months. She took family leave from work in order to be by her husband's side, acting as advocate for his health needs as his illness worsened, all the while seeking to act in good faith on behalf of her local constituents through the midst of it all. And being a woman of deep Christian faith, it is her faith that gave her the strength and grace to persevere. People who grieve need time to reorient their lives in new ways as they adjust to deep loss. And so I ask the community all around us, as well as those here, to please be understanding of these needs of those who grieve. And Cecilia wants to express her deepest gratitude and thanks to everyone for their prayers, for meals provided, and for any acts of love shown during this difficult time. Services for her husband, Michael Stacy, will be at Faith Center Church on the corner of Oak and Pleasant Streets this Saturday, November 11th. The visitation will be from 9 in the morning until the time of the memorial service at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Tommy?
Police chief, you do a good job doing the police department, and we proud of you.
Thank you.
And I want, what's this about Yaxie? Somebody said they're gonna put something in there.
Yeah, that's our understanding that there's another restaurant coming in.
You don't know what?
I don't know the name of it, no.
Oh, I just wondered. And then you're gonna talk about that beefaroo something
That's on the Planning Commission agenda for Thursday.
on Thursday. And I want to tell you my anniversary was last Saturday, and I've been there for 21 years for the local heating.
Well, congratulations, Tommy. Any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Monroe, seconded by Alderman Sellers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good evening.